people will have you believing, not even just Dave Ramsey, but also his followers, will have you believing that they're doing things exactly the way he says. They would never deter off of that. You have to do this if you want financial success, things of that nature. And obviously that's not the truth. Welcome back to our channel. If this is your first time watching us, we are almost 3 years in on our 5-year plan of paying off our mortgage. To most people, that seems very extreme. A lot of people always ask us, what made you even want to do that? Well, I will say that we are Dave Ramsey inspired, but we don't follow Dave Ramsey in what he teaches and things of that nature. We've talked about him in videos before, a couple videos previously, just talking about how we can't get behind every single thing that he believes in. At the end of the day, it is personal finance and it's not a one-size-fits-all, even if Dave Ramsey makes it feel that way. This week, we found out that majority of his followers actually use credit cards. If you don't know who Dave Ramsey is, you may wonder why that's as big as a deal as it is. It's because he's the person that encourages all of his followers to pay literal cash for everything. Cut up credit cards, don't use them, period, like you shouldn't even talk about them, and use literal cash for your purchases. So to know and to find out that so many of his followers use credit cards heavily, it was a shock for me. It just goes to show you, you can't believe everything you see on the internet, because when watching his show, if you're someone who watches his show, the way he is can be condescending to his viewers, or it has a very cult mentality with making you feel less than if you're someone who ventures off and does anything different than exactly what he teaches. Then one would believe that every single person that listens to him is doing what he says to do and is very strict with what he says, because the impression is given that if you don't follow exactly what he does, then you're not going to someday have $1 million net worth or be ahead with money, set yourself up for financial success. Like I said, there's a few things that me and my husband can't get behind when it comes to following Dave Ramsey and why we can't strictly do exactly what he says. First thing first is going to be credit cards. Like we've said, it's something that when used responsibly can be used to benefit you. It's if you're someone who carries credit card debt, pays interest, and has spending habits that are not healthy, then of course anyone would say you need to get rid of your credit cards, you need to cut them up, you don't need to use them, you need to stop the bleeding, things of that nature. But there are a lot of people that's not an issue for them. Their spending is healthy. They only spend what they can afford or what they already have in their bank accounts. And as you know, lots of credit card companies out there give you benefits for using their card, which I definitely think you should take advantage of if it's something that you can spend money that you already have. I see nothing wrong with getting a return and getting cash back or getting a credit, whatever, what have you, in turn of making purchases that you are already going to make. It just, to me, does not make sense not to do that. So with ourselves, we're not people who pay interest, make crazy purchases with no plan to pay it back. We don't pay interest. We have 2 credit cards. If you've been following us, you know that we used to have 3. This year we canceled Chase because of an issue we had with them. At this point, we were down to 2, and I feel that it's even easier to manage our purchases that we've made, and you're keeping up with one less payment, things of that nature. So I don't really know that we're gonna go back up to 3 or anything like that. At one point we were at 5, and I knew that that was our limits, whereas there's other people in this world that have 15, 20 credit cards and somehow they're able to manage all of that. That's great. It's whatever works for you. So if you are someone who is familiar, there is a community tab on everyone's YouTube channel. If there's someone that posts to their community tab and things like that, then of course you'll see something there, which is where the owner of the channel can post things like posts, kind of similar to Instagram posts. That's kind of what we'll use it for sometimes, things that we put on our Instagram. We also may post on the community tab. You can do pictures, words, just anything that you want to post, maybe to communicate with your subscribers. And with that, typically the person who is seeing your post on your community tab, it means that they're subscribed to you. So it's people who want to see what you post. Knowing that this past week, we saw a poll that the Ramsey Highlights posted on their YouTube channel on their community tab. This is a channel where they typically will post shortened versions of things that happened during the show and post it on this highlights channel that they have. One poll that was posted this week specifically asked about credit cards, and it asked, when it comes to credit cards, basically, you know, what do you do? Have you cut them up, or are you someone that uses them responsibly? Knowing how Dave Ramsey will make his callers feel about using credit cards and things of that nature, definitely expected it to be a very small percentage. But as we know, polls give you the capability of being anonymous. So I also voted on this poll and gave my true input, because the reason that you feel like almost scared to give your actual input is just the way they make you feel. That goes along with their Facebook group that they have maybe 400,000 members in. And if you post things in this Facebook group that's not in line with what Dave Ramsey says, they will suspend you, they will block you from commenting, they'll remove you altogether from the group. It's very controlling, it's very cult-ish. So people who call in, you know, sometimes they're hiding things. You can tell, just not being forthcoming with information is what I mean by that. So anyway, voted on this poll, did not expect the results at all. But of course, we posted that we use credit cards responsibly. I don't know if they were being sarcastic by saying responsibly, but the results was 70% of people who voted on this poll use credit cards. And that is mind-blowing to me, just knowing that, because everyone, like I said, in this Facebook group, they all are just, if you try to say something that's not in line with what Dave Ramsey teaches, they're in the comments coming after you. It's just, if you try to call in to Dave Ramsey and say something that is not in line with what he says, he will make you feel very little. He'll mute the person who's calling in after a while because he just doesn't want to hear it. He moves on and starts saying what he wants to say on his show. So was very shocked to see this, and it just goes to tell you that you can't believe everything you see on the internet, because people will have you believing, not even just Dave Ramsey, but also his followers will have you believing that they're doing things exactly the way he says. They would never deter off of that. You have to do this if you want financial success, things of that nature. And obviously that's not the truth. And I did become a part of a Facebook group, another one recently, which is called Dave Ramsey-ish, because they, you know, might like Dave Ramsey or like some of the stuff he says, and they don't believe in everything he teaches, like us. So that's just what this group is for. And it's nice being a part of a group that's with like-minded individuals where they also feel like it's not a one-size-fits-all. Majority of what I see on this group as far as what they don't believe in is credit cards or credit scores. If you don't know, with Dave Ramsey, he says that you should want a 0 or indeterminable credit score, to the point that lenders can't see anything on your credit file, because you shouldn't want to borrow any more money after you get out of debt, right? For some people, yes. Like for us, we don't plan on getting into any new debt. We did get a mortgage, of course, which we've been actively paying off since taking out the mortgage, but we don't want any new debt, such as car loans, student loans, things of that nature. That's not something that we're looking to get into. Other people feel different ways, and that's perfectly fine. But a credit score is something that you are always going to need, whether you're taking out new debt or not. Just even with my own personal experience, a video that we posted a few weeks ago regarding internet, with us trying out T-Mobile internet. And what did they need from us? Our information so they could run a credit check. And that just goes to show you there's other things in this world that you're going to need your credit score for. And it's not just to go further into debt. So I really actually feel for people who follow Dave Ramsey to a T, and they talk about how they are so excited because their credit score just got to 0 or indeterminable, and they're just so happy about that. But I just really don't wish anything bad on anyone. So I hope that they don't get into a position where they need to do something like sign up for a utility bill like we did, and they're told that they can't get whatever service they're looking for because of that. There are a few other things that Dave Ramsey talks about that we also just can't get behind. I mean, in general, he's very, very extreme. I've noticed that he talks about how these are the same principles that he's been using for the last 30 years and that he's been teaching for the last 30 years, and it's worked for a lot of people and they've become millionaires and it's worked for them. So, you know, he doesn't really try to argue his point with anyone, which is very, you know, that's good. But other things that he also believes in as far as, you know, paying off the house faster is that no one should get a 30-year mortgage, but they should get a 15-year mortgage with a fixed interest rate. Definitely agree with the fixed interest rate. But as far as a 15-year with it making your payments higher, you never know what can happen. Life is unpredictable, and it is very likely that something could come up along your 15 years of having that mortgage that you're just not able to afford the payment that month. And one thing that I don't want is to not be able to afford my mortgage payment, things of that nature. So I definitely think that people should plan for a rainy day by having a 30-year mortgage. I mean, for ourselves, like we said, we're on track to pay it off by 2025. So within less than 3 years, we've paid our mortgage, our 30-year mortgage, down to a 14. No regrets, because like I said, you don't know what could happen in life. But that's just something that for me, if you're telling everyone that they need to do that, everyone's situation is different. You just never know, especially with interest rates in today's age. It's going up and up. I don't really see it going back down to where it was a few years ago. And then also telling people while they're getting out of debt, they should only have a $1,000 emergency fund. That's something that I also can't get behind, just because typical repairs are going to be near that or maybe even more than that. Depending on your situation, you never know what can happen. That could be a car repair. For us, it could be something like the wrong appliance going out. So I definitely don't think, and that's something that we never did, was keep it as $1,000 and that's it. I definitely think that when we were getting out of debt, we had at least $2,000 to $2,500 there just in case, because you never know what could happen. We also had a small child, and to only do $1,000 and that's it. There are times when people talk about, you know, I had my $1,000 emergency fund, like Dave said, and it wasn't enough. If you really want to break the cycle of getting back into debt and you really want to break the chains and have enough, you have to have things there for a rainy day. So if you're someone who also watches Dave Ramsey, me personally, I don't watch him as often as my husband does, but I haven't heard of them saying anything about the poll results. So I do know that my husband messaged one of their personalities on the show, George Camel, about the poll. And this is what George Camel had to say. It's a little interesting that he would say that people are just brainwashed and that's why they have to use credit cards. I definitely disagree with that. If anything, I feel like some of the people on Dave Ramsey's team / his followers are brainwashed themselves. Not all of them, but some of them. Because if you're blindly listening to anyone telling you what to do with your finances and just not thinking about the possibility that maybe this particular thing doesn't work for me, or making decisions based off what someone online is saying, I definitely think that that can be a little bit of brainwashed in that sense. But everyone, again, entitled to their own opinion. It's unfortunate. I really like George, and I know that he's had different podcast interviews with someone else who also believes in using credit cards for benefit, meaning that you're paying a balance in full, you're not accumulating interest, you are buying things that you already plan to purchase with the expectation of getting cash back or credit or some type of kickback for doing so. Dave Ramsey's reasoning is that you're not going to get rich off of credit card points, which I totally agree with, and I definitely think I can speak for everyone when I say that people who use credit cards for that purpose are not looking to get rich, but more so just to have extra money. We put any cash back that we get on our mortgage, so it's really benefiting us in that way as well. George, with how he seems on the show, he seems to have more of an open mind, so I was surprised to see that feedback with how he felt with the poll results. But to each their own. Definitely let us know in the comments how you felt about the poll results and today's video. And if you are new, please subscribe, and we will see you in our next video.